Watts, Los Angeles, November 25th, 2007, 3 a.m. East 92nd Street sits quiet under yellow streetlights, the kind of quiet that comes after shots fired, after people fall, after everyone who saw something decides they saw nothing. A man lies on the pavement, multiple gunshot wounds. He's still warm when the first patrol car rolls up, but he's already gone. Timothy Wayne Johnson, age 37, rapper, father of two, known on these streets as Sinister. The cops step out, start asking questions. Nobody answers. Windows close, door locks. This is Watts. This is how it works. But there's one witness who won't run, a pit bull puppy, maybe 4 months old, chained to a fence. When the officers approached the body, they found the dog curled up on Timothy's chest, trying to keep him warm. Staying loyal when everyone else scattered into the dark. No shell casings recovered, no suspects named, no arrests made. The detective assigned to the case writes it up. Another gang-related homicide, another file that goes cold. But Timothy Johnson wasn't just another statistic. He was Big Evil's little brother, a shot caller in 89 Family Swan Bloods, an Interscope Records artist who made it out once, then got pulled back in. His murder remains unsolved. 17 years later, the streets still won't talk. But the story, the real story, starts long before that night, back when Timothy was just a kid with a pigeon coop, back when he still had a choice. This is the story of how Watts makes monsters, and what happens when monsters try to become men. January 14, 1970, Los Angeles County Hospital. Timothy Wayne Johnson comes into the world during a different era, before the crack epidemic, before the Bloods and Crips turned South Central into a war zone, before his neighborhood became synonymous with homicide. His parents raised him on 80th and Central, two-parent household, structure, discipline. His mother makes Kool-Aid for the neighborhood kids on hot summer days. His father takes the family camping up to Crater Lake in Oregon, gets them out of the city, shows them trees instead of concrete, stars instead of helicopters. In the backyard, Timothy and his siblings keep pigeons, a whole coop of them. The kids spend hours watching them fly, training them to come back home. It's peaceful, normal. The kind of childhood that seems impossible when you know how the story ends. But outside that gate, the streets are changing. By the time Timothy hits middle school, South Central is carved up into territories. Drew Middle School becomes a battlefield. Kitchen Crips on one side, Harvard Park Brims on the other. Timothy fights almost every day, just walking to class, gets jumped, jumps others. Learns early that respect comes from violence and hesitation gets you hurt. His older brother Clemen is already deep in it. They call him Big Evil, and the name fits. Clemen is a shot caller in 89 Family Swan Bloods, one of the most feared sets in Watts. Where Clemen walks, bodies follow. Timothy watches, learns. By 13, he's not just Big Evil's little brother anymore. He's Sinister. The name sticks. The camping trips stop. The pigeons fly away. Timothy stops coming home. Los Padrinos Juvenile Hall becomes his second address. In and out, assault, robbery, gang activity. The system tries to correct him, but the streets have already claimed him. By the time he transfers to Fremont High School, he's fully immersed. Not just a member, not just a foot soldier. He's becoming something else, something feared. The Johnson brothers, Big Evil and Sinister. Their names carry weight in Watts, real weight, the kind that makes parties go silent when they walk through the door. Tamika Crawford, a former resident, remembered it clearly. You just knew when they came in, you felt it. Everyone felt it. Their territory is small, half a square mile between 88th and 92nd, Central and Avalon. But in 1991 alone, 20 murders happened within those few blocks. 20, the highest per capita homicide rate in all of Los Angeles. And the Johnson brothers, police keep connecting them to the bodies, keep pulling them in for questioning, keep building cases, but witnesses won't talk. Fear is a more effective silencer than any bullet. People see everything and remember nothing. That's how you survive in Watts. Timothy learns this early, learns that power isn't just about pulling triggers. It's about the silence that follows. It's about making people afraid to even whisper your name to the cops. By his late teens, he's untouchable, not because he's smarter than the system, not because he's careful, but because the entire neighborhood is too terrified to testify. The good son from 80th and Central, the kid who fed pigeons and drank Kool-Aid and went camping with his family, is gone. In his place stands Sinister, a name that means exactly what it sounds like. A reputation built on violence and silence and bodies that never get solved. He's 19 years old, and the worst is still ahead. (1989) Timothy Johnson, 19 years old, gets arrested for a double homicide. 2 bodies, calculated hits. The kind of killing that sends a message, not just to rivals, but to anyone thinking about cooperation with police. The case looks solid. Witnesses place him at the scene. Physical evidence connects him to the crime. The district attorney is confident. This should be a slam dunk, but in Watts, nothing is ever that simple. As the trial date approaches, witnesses start recanting, changing their stories. Suddenly, they're not so sure what they saw. Maybe it was dark, maybe they were mistaken, maybe they don't remember anymore. Evidence goes missing, testimonies fall apart. The prosecution's case crumbles in real time. The jury decides, returns a verdict, not guilty. Timothy walks out of that courtroom a free man, legally innocent, but everyone knows the truth. The streets know, the cops know, even Timothy knows. He beat the case, not because he was innocent, but because the system couldn't touch him, because fear works better than any lawyer ever could. It's a lesson he won't forget, and it makes him bolder. For the next 2 years, Timothy and Kleeman operate with impunity. Their territory becomes a no-go zone. Even other blood sets give them space. The violence is relentless, personal, brutal. Parts freeze when they enter. Former residents describe it like a temperature drop. The way the room would go cold, conversations dying mid-sentence, people suddenly finding reasons to leave. One neighbor remembered, "You didn't look at them wrong. You didn't speak unless spoken to. They controlled everything." And the people keep falling. Drive-bys, ambushes, retaliation hits that spark more retaliation. The cycle feeds itself. In 1991, their small territory records 20 murders, 20 in half a square mile. Police are overwhelmed. Detectives work overtime trying to connect the dots, build cases, find witnesses willing to testify. But it's like trying to catch smoke. Every lead evaporates. Every witness goes silent. Then, 1991, 88th Street and Central Avenue, a car wash in broad daylight. 2 rival gang members get killed. Multiple shooters, multiple witnesses. This time, it's too public to ignore, too brazen. The city's paying attention now, and Kleeman's name is all over it. Big Evil finally gets caught, not just arrested, convicted. The evidence is overwhelming. The prosecution builds an airtight case. Kleeman Johnson gets sentenced to serious time. Shot caller to inmate, king to number, he's gone. But Timothy stays on the streets, still moving, still active, still untouchable. Losing Kleeman should have been a wake-up call, should have shown him that nobody's truly invincible, that eventually everyone's number comes up. But Timothy doesn't see it that way. With Big Evil locked up, there's a power vacuum, and Sinister is right there to fill it. He's not the older brother, not the original shot caller, but he carries the name, carries the reputation, carries the fear that the Johnson brothers built together. 89, family Swanbloods still run their territory, still control their blocks, and Timothy's still at the center of it. The violence doesn't stop. If anything, it intensifies, like he's trying to prove something. Prove he's just as dangerous without claiming. Prove the name Sinister means something on its own. Police keep building cases, keep investigating, keep connecting him to unsolved murders, but nothing sticks. The pattern holds, witnesses recant, evidence disappears, cases fall apart. By 1993, Timothy's untouchable again. Multiple bodies connected to him, zero convictions. He's everything the system fears, a known killer they can't stop, operating in plain sight, protected by a code of silence that's stronger than any law. But something's shifting. Maybe it's watching his brother rot in prison. Maybe it's the weight of all those bodies. Maybe it's just exhaustion, the realization that this life has only two endings and neither one is freedom. Whatever it is, Timothy starts looking for a way out, not through going straight, not through cooperation with police, but through something unexpected. Music. He picks up a microphone, starts writing rhymes, starts thinking maybe, just maybe, there's another path, a path that doesn't end in a cell or a casket. He has no idea how wrong he is. (1993) Timothy starts looking for a way out, not through going straight, not through cooperation with police, but through something unexpected. Music. He picks up a microphone, starts writing rhymes, forms a group, call them the Monsters. Later, they rebranded as the 88 Mobsters. The name says everything. 88th Street, the heart of their territory. Every bar, every verse, every hook is soaked in the reality of Watts. No radio-friendly content, no crossover attempts, just raw, unfiltered street testimony. And somehow, impossibly, he gets a deal. 1994, Interscope Records, the same label signing Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg, and Tupac. Major distribution, real budget. This is the escape route every street rapper dreams about. Timothy can see it. The producer is Tony Pizarro. They call him Tony D. He's a West Coast veteran who knows how to craft that G-Funk sound. The heavy bass, the synthesizers, the cinematic production that's dominating the charts in the mid-90s. Together, they create Mobbin' for Life, August 2nd, 1994. The album drops, 13 tracks of uncompromising gang rap. The lead single, I Won't Forget You Jade, stylized as I Won't Forget You G, is a tribute to fallen homies, a eulogy set to drum machines and minor chords. But the album goes deeper than gang anthems. Timothy takes shots at people he grew up with, people who made it out and never looked back. One track targets Be Real from Cypress Hill. They came up in the same neighborhood, walked the same blocks, survived the same wars. But Be Real got out, went platinum, started touring the world, and according to Timothy, forgot where he came from. The lyrics are pointed, personal. You can hear the betrayal in his voice, not because Be Real succeeded, but because he didn't bring anyone with him, didn't rep the set, didn't stay loyal. The album liner notes mention Suge Knight, Death Row Records. There's talk in the streets that Suge showed interest, that conversations happened about bringing the 88 Mobsters into the Death Row family. If it's true, it would have changed everything. Death Row is the most powerful label in hip-hop. Artists are going multi-platinum, getting rich, becoming legends, but it never happens. Mobbin' for Life hit stores. Reviews are mixed. Some critics praise the authenticity, others dismiss it as generic gangster rap in an oversaturated market. More importantly, it doesn't sell. No radio play, no video rotation, no buzz beyond the streets of Watts. Interscope looks at the numbers and makes a business decision. They drop him. Just like that, the escape route closed. Within months of the album's release, Timothy gets arrested. The charges are serious. The sentence is real. 5 years. The brief window where he could have become something else slams shut. No label, no buzz, no second chance. The album becomes a footnote, a collector's item for West Coast deep cut enthusiasts. Something old heads mentioned when discussing artists who almost made it. 5 years have passed. Prison time, reflection, planning. 1999, Timothy gets released, and this time he does something unthinkable. He starts recording with Crips. In gang culture, this is blasphemy. Bloods and Crips don't collaborate. They don't share studios. They don't appear on the same tracks. The war between them has killed thousands. But Timothy doesn't care. He works with Snowman Click from Grape Street Crips, with Doc B from Inglewood Families. Artists who should be his enemies are now his collaborators. He appears on Green Eyes' album High Blood Pressure in 2000, drops Smooth But Deadly on the compilation Captain Save 'Em, My Cape is in the Cleaners. The music is sharper now, more focused, less performative violence, more genuine reflection. Maybe he's evolving. Maybe prison taught him something. Maybe crossing gang lines through music is his new path to legitimacy. But the streets don't forgive, and they definitely don't forget. Same year, 1999, while Timothy's recording his comeback, building bridges, trying to reinvent himself, he gets convicted again. Conspiracy to commit murder. The details remain sealed. The victim unnamed, but the sentence is real. He goes back in, and this time, while he's locked away, something happens that breaks him permanently. His girlfriend gets killed. 2001, the 7800 block of Avalon Boulevard. Sharice Camprankin is shot multiple times. The shots echo through the neighborhood in broad daylight. By the time police arrive, she's gone. Witnesses scatter. Nobody saw anything. Nobody knows anything. Standard protocol in South Central. Timothy gets the news in prison. The woman he loved, gone. Killed while he's locked behind concrete and razor wire. Helpless, powerless, unable to protect her, unable to retaliate, unable to even attend the funeral. Some neighborhood sources call her Sharice. The name varies depending on who's telling the story, but the pain is consistent. Timothy takes it hard, the kind of grief that either breaks you or hardens you into something worse. 3 more years pass. He sits in his cell, lifting weights, writing letters, doing his time. But the man who tried to collaborate across gang lines, who tried to evolve through music, that man dies in that cell. When the prison gates open in 2004, Timothy Wayne Johnson walks out changed. 34 years old, father of at least 2 children, no job prospects, no music career, no woman waiting at home, just Watts. Same blocks, same violence, same war that never ends. Within months, police name him as a suspect in another killing. The details remain murky. No charges filed, no arrest made, nothing public. But his name surfaces in an investigation. The detectives know, the streets know, Timothy Johnson is back in blood. And yet, somehow, the people closest to him tell a different story. Family members insist he's changed. Friends say he's trying, looking for legitimate work, talking about leaving the gang life behind, making plans to marry again, building something stable for his kids. Maybe it's true. Maybe losing Sharice rewired something in him. Maybe watching his brother Cleeman rot in prison for over a decade finally convinced him there's no winning this game. Or maybe it's survival, performance, telling people what they want to hear while the streets pull him back down into the only life he's ever really known. Because here's the thing about redemption in Watts. Nobody trusts it. You can say you've changed. You can get a job, go to church, coach Little League. Doesn't matter. Your enemies remember the bodies. They remember the disrespect. They remember when you were sinister, when parties froze at your presence, when your name meant fear. And your own people, they don't trust it either. Because leaving the gang means knowing too much while owing allegiance to no one. You become a liability, a potential witness, a loose end that needs tying up. So Timothy exists in limbo, trying to go straight in a neighborhood that won't let him, trying to leave the life while the life keeps circling back like a vulture waiting for something to die. 2007, 3 years of this, 3 years of walking that razor's edge between past and future, between who he was and who he's trying to become. He's got his kids. He's talking about remarriage, making plans, future tense instead of past tense. Maybe it's real this time. November 24th, 2007, Saturday night rolling into Sunday morning. Somewhere in Watts, there's a party, music, drinks, people. Timothy's there. No drama, no problems. Just another night in the neighborhood. Around 3 a.m., he decides to head home. The party's winding down. Streets are emptying out. That dead zone hour when even the dealers pack it up, when the only people outside are stumbling home or looking for trouble. Timothy walks down East 92nd Street. His block, his territory, the place where he's supposed to be safe. He doesn't see them coming. Multiple shooters, multiple angles. They don't take chances. Don't give him opportunity to run or fight back. This isn't a warning. This isn't a message. This is an execution. The shots crack through the November cold. Rapid fire percussion that means someone's dead. Residents hear it. That sound you never forget once you've heard it enough times. Curtains stay closed. Doors stay locked. Nobody moves. This is Watts. This is survival. By the time the shooters disappear into the night, everyone else has vanished too. The people on the street with Timothy, the people who saw it happen, the people who could identify the killers, they evaporate. Timothy lies on the pavement, bleeding out, alone, except for one witness who won't run. A pit bull puppy, 4 months old, chained to a fence on East 92nd Street. When the gunfire stops, when the shooters flee, when everyone scatters into the darkness, the puppy stays, breaks free from its collar, or maybe someone lets it loose. It moves toward Timothy's body and curls up on his chest, trying to keep him warm, staying loyal when loyalty means nothing anymore. 3:17 a.m. The first patrol car arrives. 2 officers step out. They've worked Watts long enough to know what they're looking at. Another body, another unsolved homicide, another family about to get destroyed. One officer kneels down, checks for a pulse that isn't there. The other starts canvassing, knocking on doors, looking for witnesses, going through motions he knows are pointless. Nobody saw anything, nobody heard anything. In a neighborhood where gunshots wake half the block, somehow everyone was sleeping too deep to notice. The puppy won't leave the body. Officers have to gently pull it away. It keeps trying to go back, keeps whining, keeps looking at Timothy like he might wake up. The detective assigned to the case arrives within the hour. He's seasoned, knows the Johnson brothers, knows their history, knows this wasn't random. He begins the process, interviewing potential witnesses door to door. Same response every time. I don't know anything. I was inside. I didn't see anything. One woman won't even open her door all the way, talks through the chain lock, eyes darting to see who's watching. I was asleep, she says, but he can hear the lie, can see the fear. He canvasses the entire block, checks for surveillance cameras. There aren't any. Looks for shell casings. The shooters police their brass. Professional, calculated. This wasn't some hot-headed youngster. This was planned. By sunrise, he already knows the truth. This case is dead on arrival. No physical evidence, no cooperating witnesses, no surveillance footage, just a body, a traumatized dog, and a wall of silence thicker than concrete. He returns to the station, writes up his report, gang-related homicide, likely retaliation, suspects unknown. He's written this exact report dozens of times. The names change, the streets change, the conclusion never does. The file goes into a cabinet with all the others, unsolved murders that will stay unsolved because everyone who knows the truth values their life more than justice. Clearance rates for gang homicides in Watts sit below 30%. When the victim is someone like Timothy Johnson, someone connected, someone feared, someone whose murder might have been sanctioned by his own set, that number drops to almost zero. The whispers start immediately. Some say it was internal, that 89 family swan bloods made the call, that Timothy knew too much or disrespected someone untouchable or tried to walk away when walking away wasn't an option. Others claim it's old business, something from years back, doesn't matter. In gang culture, the past never dies. Debts compound. You can think you're clear, think you've moved on, and 15 years later, a car pulls up and settles accounts. The detective will never know which theory is true. Neither will Timothy's family, neither will his children. That's how it works in Watts. The truth gets buried with the body. The streets know everything and say nothing. Timothy Wayne Johnson becomes case number 074428. Another statistic, another cold file, another black man dead in South Central with no justice coming. His children will never know who killed their father. The puppy that stayed loyal gets adopted by a neighbor. Just questions, always questions, never answers. Timothy Wayne Johnson, born January 14, 1970, died November 25, 2007. 37 years on this earth, most of them violent. His children grow up without him. They'll hear stories, some true, some exaggerated, some deliberately softened to protect them from the full weight of who their father was. His music becomes a footnote, mobbing for. Life surfaces occasionally on collector forums. Hip-hop historians mention him when discussing West Coast deep cuts, but mostly he's forgotten, except in Watts. In Watts, they remember Big, Evil, and Sinister. They remember when 88th Street was the most dangerous territory in Los Angeles. They remember the bodies, they remember the fear, they remember parties going silent. Monique, a former neighbor, remembered meeting him for the first time. She'd heard all the stories everyone had. The Johnson brothers were legends, the kind you avoid, the kind you fear. But when they finally met, Timothy smiled, was respectful, kind, made her laugh. He was nothing like what people said, she recalled years later. Really funny. I didn't believe the things they said. He was nothing like the stories. Maybe that's the real tragedy, that Timothy Johnson was more than sinister, that he had dimensions beyond the violence, that he tried multiple times to walk away, through music, through family, through whatever version of redemption he could find. And the streets wouldn't let him. His murder joins the long list of unsolved cases. Another black man dead in South Central. Another family without answers. Another story that ends the way too many stories end in these neighborhoods. 17 years later, nobody's been arrested, nobody's been charged. The file still sits open, gathering dust. On quiet nights in Watts, when the helicopters stop circling and the sirens fade, people still talk about that November morning, about the body on East 92nd Street, about a pit bull puppy that wouldn't leave, about loyalty in a place where loyalty gets you killed. Some books are written in blood, and blood never washes away completely.